Hi, this is Jay Oliva, and I'm the director for Justice League War, and we're going to take a look at the creative process from animatic to pencil test. It all starts with the script. In this case, our screenwriter, Heath Corson, he looks at the comic book that Jim Lee and Jeff Johns did, and it's the first 6 issues of Justice League for the New 52. And so he translated it into the screenplay, and then it finally gets into my hands. And at that point, that's when, at least from my point of view, is where all the creation process starts. And what it is that I break up the script into different acts. In this case, this is Act D, which is from the point where Batman is on his way to rescue Superman all the way to the end of the film. And then I break it up further into which artists on my crew will get it. The pencil tests are done overseas by the overseas animators, and the animation directors are overseeing it, and they hand it off to the individual animators, and then they do these pencil tests for us to then look at and approve. The pencil tests themselves, the name pencil test is a little bit of a misnomer in the sense that we call for pencil tests, just like what we call, it's called wedge tests. Wedge test is just basically for us to see what the effect looks like, so we can say whether or not, like the Omega Beam Blast, we'll call that as a wedge test. But a pencil test is for us to see what the animation actually would look like, whether or not the staging that we had planned or the timing that we had kind of put into our animatic is working, and therefore we will get pencil tests back, but we won't get everything back. We won't get every scene back as a pencil test. We'll only get the ones that we called for. The one thing that a lot of people don't know about storyboarding is that literally we have a script, and sometimes it just says, like in this case, epic fight happens, and there's no real description. There's just some dialogue lines of, like in this case, Flash is coming in, he's like, ride the lightning, and he's fighting Darkseid. Sometimes these dialogue don't actually sync up to where they actually are in the script. In this case, we try to move things around, which you'll notice that there's some lines that are different from the final animation, and so we come up with this animatic, and the animatic is basically the storyboards that we time out. It's kind of a loose timing that we send overseas to be animated by the animators, but it gives us a good sense of pacing, a good sense of how the fight choreography is happening. A lot of times, with a lot of my films in particular, I like to, sometimes overpose the animatic in a sense, so that way I know how the action's going to be. So I'll animate some of the sequences myself, or my board artists will animate it themselves, so that we have a better sense of how the animation should be. Usually I do that during fight sequences, like especially when there's martial arts or anything that really requires like my personal kind of stamp on it. So I want to try to make sure that the animators know that I want, these particular follow-throughs, timing beats, because as I've mentioned in the past, is that my fight choreography I like to refer to as man ballet, and I like to make it so that like what you're watching is a highly choreographed dance with the fight choreography. That being said, once we have the animatic done, we go through many sessions of editing with myself and James Tucker to the point where we are happy with it, and we are at time because we only have a limited budget to do 76 minutes of animation. Now we can extend that out once we get into post, but in terms of what we can only get animated, we only limit it to about 76 minutes. So we have to make sure that we are within our timeline and our budget. And then we lock it, and at that point our animatic is locked, and we've got this is what we call final picture for the animatic. At this point, it would then be sent overseas, and while we are sending the storyboards and the animatic overseas, we're also doing models, and also sending models. Models and character designs and props are usually done after the storyboards are done, so you'll notice sometimes the parademons in the drawings here are kind of just blobs because we hadn't finalized what the parademons had looked like. Sometimes even like Darkseid, his design was a little changed as time went on, so what we did is, after we've sent the storyboards overseas and started to send models, the animators then, I'll have a meeting with my animation director counterparts. I think we have about 3 animation directors, 3 or 4, usually 1 per act, but I think one of them might have to do 2. He might do Act D, I'm not so sure, but I believe that we have at least 3. And I do a Skype meeting, or sometimes they'll fly me out to Korea or Japan, and I'll meet meet with the crew. We'll talk about kind of the tone, what I'm looking for the color palettes, the kind of feel for the timing of the animation, because even though our animatic, as you can tell, is pretty tight, I usually like to have the animators overseas kind of take the initial idea for the shot and kind of make it their own, because they know animation better than I do. So they might be like, well, this is going a little too long, or we can make this go faster, or we can make this snappier. So I'm always like, hey, whatever can make it as close to as perfect as I can. And if you notice, from what the animatic to the actual pencil test is, it's pretty close. So what happens is that they have about I think about 6 months of animation, and during that time, towards the end of that production, we will get these pencil tests, which you'll see, which you're seeing right now. And these pencil tests are basically ways for us to see whether or not some of the sequences that we had storyboarded are working. This particular sequence that you're seeing right here, where Wonder Woman, runs along Darkseid's arm and then pulls him down to the water. On the storyboard, I had called for this to be a pencil test so that I can see it before it goes into final animation, just in case it does not working. And if it's not working, I can give suggestions about, well, maybe we can try this, or try to redo the shot altogether. In this case, though, it actually worked out quite well, and so if I don't have any more notes on the pencil test, we will then give the okay for overseas, and they'll just continue. They'll just bring it to the next level, which is final animation, where they'll do colors, they'll ink the lines, they'll start to drop in the painted backgrounds, and at that point, once we're done with all of that, it gets sent back to us. We usually get a delivery usually at around the 7th month of after they've animated for 6 months. We usually get it about the 7th month, and we start editing. James and I sit in the edit bay and we start dropping it in. So the timeline that we have of the animatic that we had done 7-8 months prior, we start to drop in these shots, and the shots come in. They're not usually in sequence, usually they're out of sequence for the most part, and we start dropping them in, and we start to see what's working, what's not working. You'll notice that our animatic and our pencil test that you're seeing there is matching it pretty well, but when you actually do watch our film, there are slight differences, and that's when James and I are in the edit bay, and we realize that, oh, you know what, I think we need to move this sequence here, or we need to try to move a few shots here and there, just to kind of help it along. And plus, it helps that it's been a few months since we've worked on this project, so it helps kind of looking at it with fresh eyes, which always helps, because our schedules are very tight, so it's easy to just kind of get tunnel vision when we're working on these things. So anytime that we can kind of come to it with fresh eyes and kind of look at it in a way that we're not just fatigued, we're not tired. Now we're looking at it as if like, oh, this is a new project. Let's try to make this work now from what we're given, and that's how we do the edit process. Is a lot of times, like this particular shot here, we ended up adding a lot of After Effects afterwards to kind of spice up the action of the way Darkseid's Omega beams look like. And the way we do it is that we ask for it in layers from overseas. When we know we have a scene that is going to be, heavily adjusted by our crew in-house, is we'll ask them to send over layers. They'll separate the character layer from the background layer and effects layer, depending on what we need to do with it. Sometimes we don't really need to have too many layers, but other times we need huge separations, because sometimes we're even rebuilding the shot from scratch and kind of redoing it and reframing it in such a way that you wouldn't even notice what it was originally. Well, most of those shots that you'll see is a lot of the cyborg POV shots, a lot of the really heavy effect shots. I think we did it at the end there, where Darkseid gets sucked into the portal, the boom tube. We ended up doing a lot of After Effects on that. And then what we'll do is my editor and I will go in and actually sometimes we'll put in the handheld camera moves in it. That way it still feels like the frame is still kind of active. And we usually like to do that afterwards, so we have a little bit more control over it. So of course, here's the big fight sequence, and one of the things I want to talk to you guys about is that one of my jobs as a director is as my editor is cutting in the pencil test over the animatic timeline, I'm, back in my office and I'm going through the pencil test pretty much frame by frame. Usually there is a quick time and I'm just there going frame by frame just to make sure that, the animation is what I need it to be. Sometimes I'll catch things that you don't really see by watching it in normal time, or even when it's in finished animation. Sometimes in finished animation I'll see it and I'll miss it, but the pencil test allows me to see it at such an early stage that I can call for retakes, that I could call for fixes if it wasn't working. I'm looking at the backgrounds, I'm looking at how well they're translating what we had done on the storyboards and what was working and what wasn't working. A lot of times I'm checking to see, like on the pencil test, the lighting, like in this case Darkseid's being electrocuted off screen. So I'm seeing how they're making sure that the scenes where the characters are lit like this is their special color. I want to make sure that it's consistent all the way through so that I can then send my notes overseas. In fact, I don't know if it's in this sequence, but there's actually a few shots where I was able to catch it, where the pencil test was actually an earlier version of Cyborg. So you actually saw Cyborg version 1 when he first comes out of the kind of iron lung coffin. And there were some shots here in Act D where I guess there was a miscommunication with the animators and they had drawn Cyborg in his version 1, and so luckily I caught it in the pencil test and I was able to tell them, hey guys, this looks great, the animation, but the model you're using for Cyborg is kind of wrong. So it's good, at least that way it saves them some time, and it's easy for me to kind of catch things like this particular sequence here where Superman is fighting Batman and Apocalypse. One of my main notes that I wanted to make sure that those parasitic tendrils are always on Superman, and that Superman's eyes are always glowing because he's been taken over, and I got to make that clear visually. So, on the storyboard, it's kind of there. It's very loose because we didn't have very much time to kind of really flesh it out, but on the pencil test, we really made it clear. You can tell, you see all the tendrils all around him. I'm looking at that, making sure that it's clear, they're using the right model, the lighting is where I need it to be, the camera moves are matching what we need it to be. And that's really what we're doing when we do the animatic to pencil test process, is trying to see what, trying to stop, the bad animation or even sometimes the bad storytelling in our animatic stage that may look, at first maybe working, but then when we look at it with the pencil test or final animation, we realize that, that wasn't working so well. So we kind of do a little bit of editing magic at that point. Okay, so now that we've discussed how the process has come about, I just want to let you guys watch the rest of Act D and enjoy and see what we had originally envisioned in our original animatic and what the pencil test looked like, and then take a look at the film and see what the differences are. Thanks.
Whatever you're doing, kid, keep doing it.
Get him in there!
I am Darkseid!
I don't care.
Now, kid! Slam the door in his face!
I can't! You open the doorways, you can close them on Darkseid and get those people back home. Error. Error.
My computer's not responding!
It's not the computer that can do this. You're gonna do this. You are still in control.
Come on, you stupid machine! Work!
Network connected.
Yes!
Insufficient energy.
It's programmed, but I don't have the juice to push it. I need a huge blast of power.
Shouldn't be a problem. Shazam!
Kryptonian, you are coming with me.
Like hell I am!
Close it!
You're that kid.
Hell of a catch, man.
Thanks.
Don't tell them, okay? It's none of their freaking business.
It'll be our secret.
I always said you had an arm like a cannon. Now, you totally do.
Nice job, kid. Where'd Shazam go?
He took off. Said he had a hot date.
Right. Who'd go out with that immature hothead?
What about the human victims?
I can see them. Let me just get this baby to boom for me one more time.
I got this.
He's good for cleanup, at least. How do we keep Darkseid from returning?
All those mother boxes are fried.
Then they won't be able to get back anytime soon.
It's a start.
Heads up.
There they are.
We should leave before they blame us again, or...
What's your hurry, Flash?
Today marks a momentous day in human history. In our darkest hour, these superheroes donned their colorful costumes, took to
Costume? This is my uniform.
Quiet.
Oh, now you want to bark orders? After I did the heavy lifting and pulled everyone together?
You're referring to when you botched my very simple directives and Wonder Woman led the charge?
Cyborg showed you a video.
He emailed it to me.
I really hate you, Bats.
I can't believe people are no longer afraid of us.
Or that they think we're a team. We're not a team. But I am pleased to meet some folks who get me.
Yes, it was good to walk among a pantheon again.
How do you mean?
Hades, Apollo, Hermes, Hephaestus, Zeus. Each a god in their own right.
And me?
I have never met anyone like you, Superman. God or mortal.
Why at this time? Is it by chance? By fate? Or are there bigger forces at work? Is our modern...
I shouldn't be up here.
Are you kidding me? Of course you should. We won. Be proud. Your dad looks like he is.
Forces of tyranny can rise when you least expect it, and from places outside our physical realm.
By the way, man, thanks for not talking about the other thing.
Don't sweat it. And thanks for seeing me in here.
What? You're the bomb, Victory.
I know. You keep reminding me.
Victory. Victory. Victory.
These super friends use their superpowers to protect us.
And we're not friends either.
We let them think we're both.
Why?
They'll keep Gotham PD off my back, the Air Force off yours.
I don't know, a team? I've got a lot of responsibilities.
As do I.
Well, I have a whole universe to protect people, so there you go.
Come on, we can do it together.
Yeah? Can you fly into space?
I can.
Not my point. Look, we are not friends. We're not a team.
I don't agree, Hal. I kind of liked being a part of something.
Yeah, you would. Listen, this was just a one-time deal, okay?
And what if something like this should happen again?
Please. What could possibly happen?
I am very pleased to introduce to you... Gee, I didn't even ask. Do you guys have a name?
Yes, we do.
We do?
That's right. You can call us the Super 7.
Oh, please don't call us
Hera,
that.
help us.
The Super 7?
What, you don't like it?
The surface dwellers have killed our king. This is an act of war, and they will pay.